Hi guys.
All right.
Welcome to episode 10 of the GSP Team podcast. So one of the topics we're going to talk about today, this is a very event-heavy chat, I think, today. The first one's going to be how to progress movement events. So like that, there's many routes we can go down here because there's farmers, which is like very grip-based. You got super yoke, which is similar, I suppose, in movement, but you know the grip aspect to it. And then you've got medleys, max distance carries, and all that. So where do we even start with this one? We start with farmers walk, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say farmers are the most technical one.
Yeah. So like with farmers, the limiting factor for most people is going to be grip, right? Especially as you get into the heavier ones. So what I like to do with grip, and I kind of do, I suppose if you look at it, we kind of do train it for volume. We kind of do it similar to any other lift in a way. Like a lot of people will just train their farmers walks for 15-meter runs or 20-meter runs. But we're very lucky here in that we have the side of the building, which is about 60 meters.
Yeah.
So like you're doing them at the moment.
60-meter runs.
60-meter runs, yeah. And
it's
one way. It's one way. There's no stop. When you're not putting the farmers down, your grip isn't getting any rest. And it absolutely fries not just your grip, but your whole body as well.
Great cardio.
It's great condition at the same time. Yeah. So like I was saying to you, like Mary was up to like 95 kilos for the building. Yeah, a 64 kilo female. So I'm expecting you to be up to like 140 at some stage, like you know, she's kind of set the standard. Like I used to do 100 kilos and think I was great doing that.
Yeah, same as that. Same as that. Like.
You think you're doing mighty job, like, but she's really just shit down on top of us all there. But yeah, so like I like to train grip in volume, especially in the early phases of a training cycle. Now, if you're going to be, I don't know, 4 weeks out from a comp and you've got a heavy 20-meter farmers in it, or something like the strong cup where it's 10-meter drop and turns, you're not going to be training that max distance farmers the whole into the building farmers.
No.
We'd obviously be breaking it down and getting more specific. But you're 14 weeks out from UK's now?
14, yeah.
14, 15, yeah. We don't know the events. Glenn likes grip stuff. We assume there could be farmers in there or some other kind of grip thing. So we're going to train really long distances to get your grip in your hands ready for anything that could come to follow. And it is like if you were to break farmers down into one rep is 15 meters, well, you're now training 4 reps at a time, essentially.
Yeah.
And you're doing a couple of sets of that as well every session. So, and on top of that, outside of that, you're training your pinch grip stuff. You're doing them, we call them the Laws holds behind the grip, barbell holds, and we're doing some fat grip stuff as well. So you're kind of covering all the angles. Yeah, you're covering all the angles at the moment. You're just making your grip savagely strong.
What if there was, like, say, somebody who's got very good grip, but they're really slow? Which you see with some people, like they can probably hold way more than most people do, but they just can't move to the speed that, say, somebody with the lesser grip could.
So then I'd have them go back to the shorter distances again, your 15 to 20 meters at most, and work in speed. So like you know yourselves, you have a fair idea. We do, we'll do 20 meters in under 12 seconds. We'll do 50 meters in under 10 or 9, depending on the person. I kind of play with that one a little bit. Or you could even do 10 meters in less than like 7 or 8 seconds. And that would be like you're counted in as well. It's 3, 2, 1, go. And before you even pick it up, time starts. So that includes the pickup as well. Some people are horribly slow to pick up. That's losing a few seconds as well. Now that comes back to like deadlift and squat strength and all that as well. But I would start the time there. It's not when you stand up and start moving. It's when the breath says go, essentially, and you pick the weight off the ground. To when you cross the line on the far side. And increasing the weight on that over time, as long as you're staying within the time range. That's kind of like that's what we've done for years here, and it seems to work okay in fairness. Like
just from what you said there, like, especially like if you're doing those kind of speed runs, you've still got to make sure that like when you pick up the farmers, you need to take like a solid second just to stabilize yourself.
Absolutely.
Because you see some people like they start moving before they've even fully stood up. They get maybe like 3 meters and they end up dropping it again. Like so, I know like some people like you can be very eager just to kind of just like get out the gate as fast as you can, but you'll move so much faster if you just allow yourself to stand up and stabilize yourself, and then if you have good enough acceleration, like it shouldn't be a problem. You should be able to kind of pick that up. Like you're not going to be like staying at the same speed. Like ideally, you'd want to be, kind of starting off slowish, but then just kind of like getting faster and faster as kind of the set goes on.
And like how many times have we seen people basically nosedive their farmers into the ground and fall over?
My first competition.
Your first competition, but with a relatively easy weight because they really compose themselves and stand tall. I'm a big fan of stand tall, then move. I think that there is advice out there sometimes that people should essentially, start moving as they're standing up. I've seen so many fall with that. It's just not worth it to me. Like,
no, too big of a risk.
Way too big of a risk. I just don't see the point in it.
Especially when you see some people, they let the farmers dip forward.
Yeah.
I used to be like that, but I've kind of learned that it's pretty fucking pointless because you're putting your wrists in a very unnatural like kind of position, and then you're compromising your grip in the long run. So fair enough, you may get a slight momentum boost off it, but in the long run, once you start getting to the heavier weights, like you're not going to be able to lift it like that.
I don't know if any of you've seen this. Tom Hibbert done a video last week on why you should grip farmers in the middle. So he took a set of farmers and he took a crane scale, picked it up bang on in the middle, and then he picked it up off center, which is what a lot of the advice is now. You know, to pick it up at the back so it tilts forward and gives you momentum, or makes the pick easier. With the crane scale, the difference in the pickup was only 1%. Wow. So for what you're gaining, as to what you could lose by stumbling or hitting the ground or anything like that, it's not actually worth it. That was kind of his advice. It was a very small video, but it was quite good because a lot of the advice now is to pick them at the back slightly. Kind of tilt forward so you have more speed, or to make the pickup easier. Some people would say that as well because one side comes up and then the other comes up. So if you're poor to pick up, but I just think there's so much that can go wrong with doing all that. That it's just not worth it.
Not worth it. Yeah, definitely.
You two finished talking.
Yeah.
No, I think one of the biggest things when we're coaching, or when I'm coaching as well, is that whole pickup and the put down. If you're doing it for distance, because the two places that you're going to fuck up, I think, the most with the speed is if you're not picking them up correctly. You're not taking, like I said, that split second, which can save you multiple seconds and time and points along the way. Is to get that pickup right, and say if you're doing it for distance or you're doing 2 lengths, is not just abandon them, just don't get rid of them, throw them and then turn around. How many times do you see that as well? But they just people just literally launch them down to try and spin around really quickly.
Then they have to reshuffle the farmers
because they're all wonky or the one's fallen over. There's those little tricks I think that will help you. Generally when it comes to speeding up, I suppose, your progress. But generally, I suppose being fast, we talk about fast feet, is understanding the movement pattern, I suppose, for farmers. Generally, if it's heavy, you're not going to be wanting to take in long running strides.
No.
You want to be moving fast feet.
Fast feet,
short distance but fast feet.
I think like there's a good key thing to say there is like you start with small steps and build your stride as you go.
Yeah, definitely.
You're not starting off with a big lunging stride, as you said.
Exactly.
You're starting small and you build your strides as you go until you find a good stride for you to go at a good pace with that weight.
That weight, yeah. There's one thing to say as well. I just from like refereeing novices and inter competitions, see a lot of people like wearing like very spongy runners when they're doing the farmers, and it's just like it is probably one of the worst footwear I move an event. Runners, you make sense running. You put your runners on if you want to move fast, like, but when you're kind of lifting heavy weights and stuff, you got to think that like you're putting yourself in a very unstable position. So I say either I kind of switch between using a very kind of thin soled hiking boots, or just a pair of like Converse, and I think just overall it's a lot more better and safer doing it that way, because I've seen a lot of people doing it. So if you are doing it, like I'd say just kind of switch over and just kind of like play around and see how it feels.
I think what you see with footwear as well, a lot more strength athletes are going into the whole Metcon area or the nanos because they were made for that CrossFit kind of, that cross functional of weight and movement, right? So you will see, and like there's again, they're expensive, but there is something that if you're in the market and you're looking for something footwear wise, maybe look for something like that because it has a hard base. If anything that's too soft, like we said there, has most runners, your Nikes or whatever, have a memory foam sole to cushion the impact of running. Which is great if, like I said, you're running the speed over whatever. But if you're trying to carry 300, 400 kilos on your back or a couple hundred kilos per hand, having a soft memory sole foam in your shoe is not going to give you that stability.
No, definitely.
So look for something, like I said, like the cons where I would have originally maybe been in more con type shoe. You see some of the lads in like hiking boots for the ankle stability. So like mess around with it, find what you can move in quickly, I suppose, and that you have that freedom of movement and find what works for you.
Yeah. And I suppose back to like, we're going a bit off topic there a little bit, but they're all really good points. I think they're stuff that people need to be mindful of because it's all really, really important. Something else actually before we do get back onto the topic that was initially asked. Split stance farmers as well, pick up. Again, like this is another thing that does be out there.
I've never seen people like
It was a big trend there
for a while,
couple of months back.
Almost like as if like a runner coming out the gate. Oh wow, that's crazy.
I'm not a fan of it.
No.
No, I do have to say, like, we have someone lifting this weekend at the Strom Cup that I coach that's going to be doing it because they were having problems picking up the farmers double-legged, and then they just decided to try the split stance, and it seemed to work. We've no understanding of why, and like this person even agreed with me that it makes no sense. But so for this weekend, we just have to go with it, kind of a thing. But generally, I wouldn't be a fan of it because again, you're not as stable. Again, there's the whole risk of falling over essentially and being unstable.
I think when you look at a mechanical point of view on the body, the impact of lifting in this split position, especially on for light enough weights, you get away with it. But when it gets heavy,
competition weights,
it's not your stable base. And like people are always going to try new things, fine, and maybe there's the outliers that will really work for whatever weights they get to. But I think it's not something I would coach.
No, I would never coach it. If anything, I coach out of it. I coach out of split stance, and I coach people out of gripping the bar, not in the center. Because for the fractional gain you might get out of it, it's not worth the massive fuck up that you essentially could do. So I suppose back to the progression, how to progress moving events, like over a training cycle or whatever. So we're talking about farmers at the moment, like if you're far out, you're in that 8 to 16 week out. If you're even prepping 16 weeks out, but if you're in that kind of phase, you could train grip 3 times a week. You could do your farmers once a week. You could even do your farmers twice a week, right? And you could hit a lot of volume, and you could do your long distance runs. You could do some EMOMs as well, which are quite taxing, or just standard grip, like you're doing a lot of pinch grip stuff at the moment. We're doing some fat grip stuff, some bar holds in your long distance farmers. Or you could do farmers twice a week as well. Now, once you come into your last 8 to 6 weeks coming into a competition, I'd be reducing the distances down to closer to competition distances and really trying to hone that in. And I would also say you should only be doing farmers once a week at most, simply because of the hand health. A lot of people will, your hands will start getting dry, your calluses will start getting a bit teary. And like if you tear a callus anywhere within 4 weeks out from comp, it's very hard to recover that quick enough, especially for a very heavy farmers where you need to really get a grip of that bar. So I think for at the end of it, I always reduce the grip work anyway, because grip work, like it can take a while for your hands to come back to 100% if you're doing a lot of grip work. So I like to reduce the volume an awful lot coming into competition, and I definitely reduce the volume on the actual farmer's walk implement, because again, you don't want to tear a callus a few weeks out. I've been there.
Seen it.
You haven't, have you? And you're probably going to lead into another topic here, which is going to help people progress on farmers into competition, which is hand health.
Like I think I can't remember the last time I tore a callus. I reckon it was in the very beginning doing deadlifts and powerlifting. And I got some really helpful tips back years and years back, which I give every one of you, and I think that most people now follow it in here where they wouldn't have before. But just talking about the tearing of the calluses, like the healing of that. Remember when Tony tore calluses on both hands on car deadlift? Literally, I was doing field surgery, cutting off bits of calluses. And I don't know how long it took him to come back from that.
I've heard a few people using super glue to put their hand back.
I have super glue kept in my kit bag all the time, and just in case, thank God I've never had to use it. But just suppose off topic, but not off topic, I suppose, is with regards to hand health. And one of the biggest things you can do to, and people don't understand this, like they think, toughening up the skin, creating a callus. Okay, no. That's absolutely not. Yes, you're going to get calluses, right? You can't see unless you're on the video. You'll get a form of callus, but these calluses are not dry, and they're not
rock solid.
They're not burning,
right? And they're not big lumps, right? So the simplest thing you can do for your hand health, and this is more for the lads out there, because some of the lads I said it to, this one, are you serious?
Laugh it off.
We'll laugh it off, but it really is. Your skin needs to be moisturized. It needs to be malleable. It needs to be able to move. If it's dry and it's hard, it's going to crack, it's going to tear. That's what happens. It's not going to actually be I can't remember. Durable. Okay.
It's weak when it's like that.
Exactly. So it needs to have this elasticity, and the way to do that is, especially if you're using an awful lot of chalk, is you need to make sure that you wash your hands thoroughly after you have used chalk. Get all residues, especially liquid chalk, because it has alcohol in it and resin. Wash the hands thoroughly and moisturize. Go down, get yourself a really thick, like the Norwegian formulas, Aldi's and Lidl's do it, like a really cheap version, and it's thick, greasy hand cream. Slap that on, especially in around the calluses, every day, and moisturize every day, and keep the calluses soft.
Soft. Yeah.
If you find they're getting a little bit harsh and they are getting a bit dry, emery board. So your girlfriends or whatever will know about these. It's for your nails. They're like a sandpaper board, and basically just sand the calluses, moisturize.
Yeah.
And that will save you so much damage, hassle down the line with regards to calluses.
And that's really important when it comes to farmers walk progression. Because the best way to make progression is not get injured. And tearing calluses is a hand injury, essentially,
exactly.
which will stop you from training your farmers.
Or even, I know, like before, like you kind of started telling me about the moisturizing and stuff like years ago, I was finding the biggest thing that was going to put me off of farmers was that like my hands were just burning so badly because they were so dry and like holding the farmers. It was just like it was way too much, like, and then that is going to hold you back your training, and that's going to hold back the competition. But then now I moisturize my hands like every day, and it makes a massive difference. Otherwise, it's just it's painful.
Callus in years either, have you?
I've small like small bits, like, but I've never been to the point where it's like impeded my performance. Like it's just. I've never had like a detrimental one that you see some people have. Like
probably just had a little discomfort more so from all the volume.
That's it. But I've never had a bad tear. Like, I just think there would probably be some lads laughing at this, but like fucking moisturize your hands. Like,
I actually think OSG was it the farmers, the women that were coming out with the callus tore here.
Really,
there was 2 or 3 of them that tore calluses really badly, and in the palm, like across the center to the fingers, so the whole flap was down here. And could so easily be avoided.
I think that's really, isn't it? Because like a lot of that is like we said, do your volumes like squats or deadlifts. Do your volume far away. Do less competition. Hand health keeps you healthy. You know, I mean, that there's kind of your basics there.
And your start and finishing position, where you start positions.
I suppose I was just going to say, like, going into like if you're like say talk to about yoke, it'd be fairly kind of like similar to what you're saying, minus kind of the grip stuff, like do lots of volume in the start and then start kind of like taper it down. You can work kind of your speed work at the same time over 10 meters. And
so there are the one problem with yoke for me is how taxing it is.
Hugely.
Especially like the weight is just so massive, and there's so like yoke is just like this is one of the things I'm actually not a fan of in strongman so much, because it just crushes the body, crushes your discs, your facet joints, literally knees, hips. It's just there's so much compression. Like but anyway, it's something that we have to train. And I think for yoke, like I'd nearly year round be saying, if possible, week heavy, week off, or week of speed, and be alternating that the whole way through. And your heavy week can be voluminous as well. But it doesn't have to be bone crunching stuff. It can be kind of your volume stuff. It can be 4 sets of 20 meters or whatever way you want to do it. It's just the yoke. We've seen some traumatic injuries too on yoke. Like we know how dodgy it can be. Like, and I'm always wary of the yoke. What I like to do is where Aisha's in the position now. She's one of the best masters in the world. You've won yoke 2 years in a row, right? So you're the best master female in the world at yoke. You can say that. And she probably trains 3 heavy yoke sessions in the lead up to OSG. But she has done a lot of heavy yoke down through the years, so we know she can handle it. Her body it knows the weight. I think coming up to OSG, the yoke was 260 or so. You done like the heaviest you done was a 250 run, I think, and you picked 270. And just done speed work every other week, because the yoke actually beats the shit out of you as well.
We even said to it, I've only done yoke twice there in prep for Islands in 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time, but I said to you yesterday, like I did yoke outside on the tarmac for the 15 meters, and I only did it at 180, and I'm jacked up from like I'm going to have to really stretch out that hip, because the movement of trying to go fast and trying to hold everything tight, and it's on the wider yoke. It's not our solid yoke. So it's just being mindful of you're trying to run fast, because you obviously want it for speed. You're trying to move fast with this weight on your back. It's.
I think because yoke again and how potentially damaging it is to your nervous system and just muscularly as well and structurally to the whole body. I think like when you're far out from competition, unless like you're in a different situation now, Cilléin, but you haven't done a lot of yoke competition over the years. It's a priority for you right now to get good at yoke, so that if it ever comes up, because it's the only event that you really haven't competed in much. So we just have to do a lot of it right now. But I would ideally like say touch on yoke every 2 to 3 weeks for someone who's used to it, like Ayshea, right? And let the really long volume stuff, like the max like distance carries, like the farmers, I would do it with that. That way you're still going to work your whole, your legs are still moving in the same pattern. You can do it beltless as well to really work your core a little bit more, and that's going to work similar muscles, I suppose, that you would to the yoke.
Yeah.
And without having to really crush your body with a yoke every couple of weeks. I'd rather see that happen. And then as you come close to the comp, be kind of doing your comp runs and then some speed work in between. It's just what we've seen with yoke down through the years. And like once someone I think gets used to yoke and gets used to handling heavy load on yoke, and I stole this from Laws because Laws used to do it years ago. He would do like some medium effort weight runs. He'd do a lot of speed work. He would just do a couple of heavy picks. And he was one of the best in the world at yoke.
Sure, but he,
So what we do with you,
he did. I don't think he was ever beaten.
Was he not? No,
like he was
beaten.
Yeah. So
the best.
he was a good squatter as well. You know, the squatting's a big base in our program, so squat strength will help your yoke. Not necessarily being a big squatter is going to mean you're going to be good at yoke because there's a skill factor as well.
Yeah.
But it does help. So I think what we do with you now, I essentially stole from Laws. That was really good info. I was watching what he was doing. It worked really well. So I brought that to you. And I think down the line, you would do something similar. And I think, again, back to the novice intermediate, that they can do something similar as well. I don't like heavy yoke every week.
No.
And I don't like crazy volumes in yoke that you could kind of do with farmers. Because in the end with farmers, your grip is going to give out first.
Yeah.
You
drop it.
You just drop
it. Just the yoke again. And even down to like the level of your bones. Like the yoke's being really heavy and doing a lot of volume on them, your bones splinter and crack. When you lift heavy loads. So like, do you really want to be doing tons and tons of volume with a yoke? No. I've seen 2 fucking tib and fib snap in person.
It's horrible.
We've seen Carol Gleason's here, and I've seen Nancy in America at OSG.
Yeah.
I thought after Carol they'd never see it again. Fuck me, like.
Yeah. And
I could hear her scream. I was up the stands, like
it was not pleasant.
It's and like we all know the damage. Just the compression down through your spine from yoke and stuff as well. You don't want to be doing that heavy.
I have, like I said, from Islands last year when we did yoke for distance, I was slamming myself into yoke for a year after. It's only recently, that my traps have actually relaxed. I had so much damage done.
I hate yoke for distance. I think it's a terrible event.
It's too much.
It's too much.
One speed run, that's it. Just 10 minutes.
15 to 20 meters or whatever the fuck you want to do. Maybe a drop and turn, but
that's it.
It's just it's so harsh on the body, I think. But so I think that kind of
covers it. Do you think there would have been any kind of like differences to make now if you were doing like a medley or Husfelds or a sandbag for distance?
So the max distance carries like that, I would we train them similar to we would our farmers walk like. What I like to do, again, like you see it in your sprinkled into your programs, and a lot of our people either a Husfeld or a sandbag, and I'll say, your track is 15 meters, one length is 15 meters of a track. I want you to do 20 total in the session with a set weight. So it could be 4 sets of 5, or it could be whatever, and that we'll increase that volume in the off season up to like 30 lengths. It is absolutely brutal. It's torture, but like it's a whole body workout all in one, and it's a nice finisher too.
It is.
You're right at the end of your session, just 80, 100 kilo sandbag. Doesn't have to be crazy heavy, and just get the body moving, and serious conditioning as well. If you can do it like with minimal rest periods, you could even do 20 lengths every week with the same weight, but reduce the time it takes you to do the whole thing, and you're still going to make improvements. So like again,
that's where your speed comes into it. That's where you're speeding up your actual.
Absolutely, and your lung capacity as well by recovering quicker.
I think as well, just like kind of one thing to say is that kind of you see, say like it was like a max distance run with say like a sandbag or Husfeld. You see a lot of people like really like taking their time with it, and it's just like it's not something you can take your time with. Like I like just think you've roughly got about 40 to 50 seconds before you completely gas out. So
and even regardless of what pace you're going, that tends to happen.
And you see some people like such a sandbag, they may like get to the turn and they'll stop and they'll squat into it and think to take a break. But like to pick that back up, like I've been there,
absolute skill. Right? And the only person I've seen do that was Donna Moore. Such class. And like the only other times I've tried it.
After 3 minutes.
The only time I ever tried to do it was actually in that competition. I was like, no, I've got to squat this fucker up again and move. Do you know what I mean? It takes an awful lot of practice.
I did it once before in competition, and I think after I done it, I think I made like a meter. Whereas if I didn't do it, I probably could have made like an extra 3 or 4 meters. Those things like that. Like especially when you see with the Husfeld, you see a lot of people like trying to get it up as like high as they can. You're wasting a lot of time. Like I feel like you just gotta focus on getting your pickup done perfectly, and then go with it. Like you can't be fighting with those kind of weights, like because it's exhausting and draining. Like, and it's those kind of things that can make a big difference between winning and losing at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I suppose if you do have sandbag carry or loose fella in competition coming up, and you're again at that 10 to 12 week out mark, you don't need to be training the comp weight now.
No.
Just train lighter and train for longer distances than you. Because like, you don't need like with a sandbag carry. Like, how many comps have you done where max distance sandbag 140, 160 weight? You would only touch that weight maybe once or twice before the comp.
Yeah.
Most of your work will be done in like 100 kilos, 120 kilos.
Yeah, I think it was like when we had Ireland in 2020, it was like 120. No, it was 160. And I think we were mainly working through like 130 kilos in the gym. And I think I'd done like 160 for like one length. That was it. It just dropped down after that. Like, it was just more just get the feel of it. Like, you're not burning yourself out. It's kind of the same way that like if you had like deadlift for reps or something coming up in competition, you're not going to start off with the competition weights. And you're not going to be doing the kind of the competition weight for max reps in training. So kind of don't do the same for your movement events. Like don't max out on the competition weight.
Is it then again we're coming back to what we said before about like some people think they need to have that confidence of saying they're feeling it this far out. And then not understanding that the reason it's not improving is because the body's like, why are you doing this to me on a fucking weekly basis? Trying to increase reps, and I can't increase reps at comp weight because you're doing it every week.
Every week, yeah.
Or even every other week at comp weight, it would make no sense. And not unless that comp weight was ridiculously light for you. Yeah. That it is actually a working weight.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like just going with what you say there is like, if you like, you see kind of some people who are like novice intermediates and like they want to have the confidence of touching the competition weight in training, but it's just like you're a novice. It's just like you don't have to be doing these things. Like, I mean, I've gone into a lot of competitions where I was really unsure if I could actually lift the weight because I hadn't done it in training. But because I trained properly, I was able to do it on the day and I was able to execute it perfectly. So, you know, like again, you just kind of see a lot of novice intermediates putting too much pressure on themselves that like, you know, like you have to win, everything has to be perfect. So, like that's not going to happen when you're starting off. You know, when you're kind of starting this journey, like, and even when you get into the top level, like we wouldn't really touch competition weights, and if we did, it may be for just like 1 or 2 reps. Like, it's not like you're not maxing out like, you know, your overall rep capacity on it. Like, so
because we know that if you do that in training, you probably won't do it on the day because you're frying yourself.
Yeah, and you see that
you're not going to be able to bring it again. Like, it takes an awful massive effort, especially if comp weight's heavy for you. Like, especially at your level, it takes such a massive effort to be able to actually do that weight for massive reps. So to do it in training is just wasteful.
It's like,
do it again on the day.
Even if you run it back to Mary with her yoke for OSG, because her yoke was the same as mine, it's 267.
Yeah.
And like that was a weight she would never have touched before, but she knew she did really well. I think on the
no, she didn't make the final. The yoke was in the final.
Was it in the oh no, sorry. The farmers then.
The farmers,
the farmers.
She blitzed the farmers.
But it's that's there were weights, 100 kilo. It ended up that we had to do the heaviest weight for
a double length.
100
kilos.
And she was one of the fastest when she first went out.
Yeah, so like it's just for her, like again, it was very heavy weight for her. So she was training farmers for twice a week, up to 4 weeks out. And it wasn't comp weight ever, really, at that stage. I think she touched comp weight once, like 3 weeks out. And then after that, it was just like runs of 80, 90 kilos. I think she done a heavy pick one day of 110 per arm. But that was it. It was just pick it, drop it. That was it. Just give a bit of confidence in your pickup on the day to make things easier. And it was, and on the day then she absolutely blitzed it. Absolutely blitzed it.
I think it's like, you know, like if you consider like if you're playing like GAA football, like if you were getting ready for a match, you're not going to get ready by a match by playing like a match at each training session. You see what I mean? Like you're not going to play a full 70 minutes in training, you know, to get ready for a match. You're going to
on Monday, Wednesday.
It's just like it's pointless.
I hope that makes you faster.
Like it's just like you what you do in training for those kind of things. You break down all the different elements of it, and you kind of like work on those, but like not to the point where you're kind of going all out as you would on a game. Like, so it's kind of the same with this kind of training. Like you can't be doing what you'd be doing in competition every week and then expect to do that at the competition. Like,
even
it's just
any sport, right? Even like sport, Darren's doing he's signed up for the Dublin City Marathon in October. He's not going to run a marathon before he runs a marathon.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just going to do small, and then a little bit longer. But he's never going to run that marathon until he runs the marathon.
Yeah.
So look at it from that perspective, I suppose.
Yeah. And again, why would you not run the whole marathon beforehand? Because it'll fucking kill you.
It's hard.
You'll be dead for a couple of weeks after it. So it's the exact same thing with lifting weights. You know, if you're running the whole competition essentially every Saturday,
Yeah.
chances are in 5 weeks' time when the comp comes around, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You know, if people don't really think of this, like,
No.
And don't get me wrong, training has to be really hard.
Has to be hard.
But
Yeah,
it
but it has to be
absolutely.
smart.
It has to be smart as well.
Yeah.
Hard training is smart training.
Yeah, it is.
And vice versa and all that. But
Yeah.
you can't just do the comp weights every week.
Yeah.
And expect that it's going to be fine on the day.
On the day,
And the other thing with strongman is you might be running comp weights on your farmers, right? But you might go somewhere else and it's a totally different handle.
Yeah.
It might be a totally different height pickup, or your hoop fill might be totally different, or
Yeah.
everything could be totally different.
Yeah.
So
That's what throw you off.
exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes you actually have to train over the comp weights.
Yeah.
To be able to handle it on your equipment to make it better for even just once you might do, like every now and again I'll throw in, like, I think some of the lads have, they're doing the INSF comp. So I think I have a few of them down for like a max 20 meters this week or a max 15 meters or something like that, just so they can get used to handling a really heavy load in case when they come here to compete, the farmers are totally different and throws them off.
Yeah.
At least then they're able to adapt.
Yeah.
But even down to, so we're lucky, we have a fat grip farmers with a high pick, and we have a low pick farmers, and we have our nice farmers, right? And you will get us to do fat grip farmers for however, or the low pick farmers.
Low pick farmers. I'm a big fan of, like, I suppose back to earlier, like when you're in that 8 to 16 week out, or the off season as people like to call it, or building phases, use the fat grip farmers every now and again, or use the really low pickup farmers, because that's way harder than most competition equipment. So if we're training on equipment further up from competition, that's way harder than the competition kit. It's going to make the competition easier for us. You know, and it is harder to do and it's harder to use and hurts people's ego sometimes, but it's so beneficial.
Is there anything else that you suggest that would help people get quicker, I suppose, or more efficient at the movement events across the board now?
Other than that, now just fucking do your conditioning. Do your conditioning. You see some people who are super strong statically, and then they just lose it on the movement events just because they're out of breath after one go. Like, and it's just, again, you got to be working your weaknesses really. Like, you can't neglect these kind of things. Like, again, if you've got a weak grip, farmers, you got to practice that. Like, so just don't be ignoring those kind of small things.
No, conditioning is absolutely massive. You're right, and like especially if you come up against a medley or max distance carry. I mean, they're down to conditioning. Like. The winner is the best conditioned athlete.
It's not usually the strongest one. It's usually the most conditioned.
Most conditioned athlete will normally win that. Like, so yeah, condition's massive. If you want to know what to do for condition, we've done a half an episode on it. I think maybe 3 or 4 back. So if you're going through Spotify there, you can click down to what we spoke about in every episode. You'll find it there. Like, massively underrated, and should be done all year round in my eyes. Especially for the bigger athletes, because it's so easy for you to lose your condition levels. So you've got to be on top of that thing. I think. What about you? Do you have anything else to?
No, I think the same as that. The conditioning and again, I think as well core is a massive thing. Like people don't, I think, train their core enough at the right time, and for all of that, you're going to have a strong core to be able to move with weight. And not just crumple. Like you might be able to pick it, that's fine. But if you can't hold your brace and have a strong core whilst you're moving with that weight, you're going to have problems.
It's going to fold you over.
Absolutely.
Essentially.
And I suppose it's learning to, I think as well, we get training people to actually learn to be able to move whilst remaining braced is a big thing. So to practice that and to learn on that, and that's actually probably a video that we can throw in itself.
Absolutely, actually, and even how to breathe while doing them eventually.
Because often, the whole people, are you actually breathing? Don't hold your breath and then pass out at the end. I think that's it,
Move on to stones.
So the next topic we were to talk about was stone lifting. So, and specifically, like, to start off with Atlas stones, which is obviously what people are most common, and like, first thing that came out of my mouth, and I've had to speak to a few people this weekend in the gym, it's having a tacky kit. For fuck's sake, like, have your own tacky bag and tacky kit. It drives me crazy when people are here and they do stones, right? And next thing they turn around and go, has anyone got WD-40 or white spirits? And you're like,
no towel.
Or no towel. It's like, so you came down here, lathered yourself in tacky, and have nothing to clean yourself up. What if we have nothing to clean up with either? Like, you're fucked. You're going to go home and drive home and touch your steering wheel with your tacky. Come on, guys. Like, I mean, so for anyone listening to this, like, I get very frustrated about this topic, but what you need to have in your kit bag, right, especially if you intend on doing stones that day, is a bag within your kit bag, and in that bag you'll have something to clean tacky, whether it's tacky remover spray, WD-40, white spirits, whatever you want to do. Old rags to pull the tacky off when you're after using the cleaner. and your tacky.
Yeah.
And if you need tape for tacky or your tacky sleeves or whatever, they all like everyone should have this bag that has all their kit in it for stones. So and obviously you want this bag within your bag.
Yeah.
But you have it in a separate bag for itself because tacky kit is so messy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It boggles my mind.
Especially when you're showing up to a competition in somebody else's gym. It's a bit disrespectful. You're not bringing this stuff and then you're fucking getting it all over the place.
The amount of times that people have gone to big competitions and gone, oh, can I use your tacky?
Yes.
Like, I've got no tacky as well. Have your own fucking tacky.
Have your own tacky,
Yes, it's expensive, but if you want to do stones, buy tacky. Or whatever it is that you need to lift that stone. Yeah. And that should be in your tacky bag.
In fairness, it lasts a good while.
Oh, absolutely, because you're not doing stones all the time, So, but have your tacky remover, like you said, come into someone's gym and going like, oh, have you anything to clean up with? Well, no, we don't. Get your own shit.
And luckily here, like people usually have a few bits left behind, or vice versa, or something.
And we sometimes have odd tubs of bits of tacky left and stuff, but that's not the point. You know, you should be responsible. Like, and tacky clothes as well. That's the other one. So people roll up to do stones and they've got no like. Well, it's up to them as well, I suppose. But it's something to have. If you're going to have your tacky clothes, your clothes in a bag within your bag, and your tacky kit, and then you're good to go.
I like that. I always had like that singlet that I used to wear doing stones. It'd be left in the bag, and it'd be with my tacky kit, and I'd always be ready to go.
And my tacky shoes, my tacky singlet, my tacky shorts, my tacky shirt. Absolutely. All there. Yeah.
So like that's 101. Like this is where you're starting with stones training. You have to have your kit that you like. You can't just be rolling up with nothing.
Oh, and tape as well.
Oh yeah, that's what you're
using. Tape. Make sure you have your tape.
So be adults, people. Bring some tacky kit with you. That's kind of what we're saying there. And then after that, like I suppose it's how to train them and how we train them and all that carry on. Like so like I kind of have similar philosophy on stones to yoke. In that like they can be quite harsh on the body. You know, if you're doing a lot of stone volume, it can be quite harsh on the body. So for the most part, not always, I like to do stones twice every other week. Every other week, like and the thing is with stones, it's kind of like the yoke. Once you become technically well able and good at stones, you mightn't touch them for 2 months, but your deadlift and squat is going up, and next thing you go back to stones and you hit a PB, or you're very close to your best ever. And we've seen that time and time again. You're like that. You're both technically well able at stones. So like you don't touch stones at all for months on end.
No, I think for UKs, I think I trained stones like 3 times over 16 weeks.
Yeah.
And just went in and like I won stones.
You won stones over there.
Group, like,
And for Ireland, you probably trained stones once, twice.
I think I did once. Like, I think it's just because like stones is such a staple point in strongman, and it's a cool event to do that. A lot of people, especially novices, they think that they're getting stronger from doing stones, and like you're like realistically, you're not getting stronger off doing them because like it's more of a technical thing, and it's more about like your squats, your remaining deadlifts, anything. You're just working your whole posterior chain.
That's actually a really key point you said there. We don't really use the events often to get stronger. We do other things to get stronger for our events.
Exactly. You're not unless you're doing like say axle or log, like that's a little overhead's a little bit different. But I say like 90% of them, like you're not going to get stronger from actually practicing the events.
I think again, we're bringing it back to this. Like if you're a hurler, right, you hook the ball, right, you're doing a skill. When we touch our events, that's our skill. That's our technique, right? That's a skill practice. What we do in the gym with RDLs, SDLs, whatever, that's our getting us stronger to be able to do the event. But that doing the event is actually the skill, is the technique.
Yeah.
That's the way I tend to look at it. I never look at getting stronger on a log or an axle. Is getting stronger by doing that. It's by doing my push press and my seated dumbbells and whatever else.
Absolutely. And like that was a really good point. Sorry for cutting into you there, so you can continue on.
No, I think I've lost my train.
I just thought that was a really key thing because people they do forget that. They do forget that. Like you will get a bit stronger training events. Don't get me wrong, but we use the main lifts in the gym to build our strength.
Yeah, definitely.
Which are our squats, our pulls, our presses, or deadlifts, whatever else, and our accessories like. So people.
That's what you're basically saying. That we don't lift stones to get stronger at. We don't get stronger by doing
No. It's just that's more technique.
And like so for you guys, you don't. You might do 8 stone sessions a year.
Probably,
Realistically,
I think before OSG, and did 3.
3 probably, was it?
Yeah.
Max 4.
Even if you look at if anybody watched the Stockman's YouTube videos, they don't really do stones at all. And Tom and Luke are probably the 2 best stone lifters in the world. And they touch on them for a little bit, and even when they touch on them, he might pick up 180 kilos. That's it. But he's done 286 kilos for the world record and stuff. It's just once you kind of get that skill done, you don't have to be doing. And I think it's just so many people it is a cool event. You can't deny it. It's cool. It's fun to do. But you got to think more about your progression long term and stuff. Is it actually going to benefit you doing it every week? No.
Winning is cooler.
Yeah, winning is cool. Yeah, winning is fucking cooler. Yeah.
Then with the people then that are probably newer to stones, if we had new people come into the gym here, I wouldn't let them do stones until they had a good strength base. I don't have a number for that, but show me some stability in your squat. Show me some, good movement in your deadlift. And good bracing ability, all that stuff, or them cores to being a strong person, essentially.
See how they handle the sandbag.
Totally. Stones are the last thing you're doing. You're going to do farmers for a while. You're going to do stone carry or sandbag carries for a while. And they're probably the 2 staples for the beginner strongman for me. And let's see how they get on with that. Then we'll look at stones. Maybe.
There's a reason why. If you look at the INSF or the GSP league, there hasn't been stones really at all. Because they're all beginners, novices, and it's just
them few comps.
And it's just and I'd probably say probably a lot of them probably want to have stones in there, but you're probably just not ready or at the skill level to be doing them yet.
It's definitely much safer.
It's dangerous. It's a fucking thing, and it's that's one thing. You watch people do it perfectly so many times. It's it must be grounds but there's a fucking huge risk factor, especially if you're not picking it off the ground. You see a lot of people you see people do it with the log as well. They kind of bend over and then they try and lift it up with their arms.
They're curling
in, and that's just you're going to blow your bicep off doing that. So it's you got to know how to even just pick it off the ground perfectly.
But also you're in a vulnerable position.
Totally.
Picking up a stone.
Totally.
And I remember a comment on a video when Maria Smith was put up I don't know 100 kilo stone or something. And so I was like, oh my God, your back, it's all curved over. But what you've got to understand is we've trained ourselves to be strong in that vulnerable position. But everything is braced, everything's locked. So it now isn't a vulnerable position unless you don't know what you're doing and you're not strong enough.
Exactly.
So I've even seen just videos of from the service fail ones where people doing atlas stones and they're kind of getting it up. And the next thing they just drop just completely fucking black out.
And you go into too much of an extension and can't handle yourself. You could fall backwards with that stone and on top of you.
Well,
we know the damage that can cause.
Since you said that, just one thing I found that helped me a lot was my training when I actually was just getting the technique of stones was getting it all the way up to my chest and just holding it there. Holding it and just getting comfortable with having, because I think a lot of people get it up and they freak out and they just want to just get it away from me. And then you see it it starts hitting the yoke and it drops and stuff so I feel if you can just kind of get up there and hold it and just be comfortable in an uncomfortable position, then when it comes on the day, then you can just kind of get it up there so much. You're not freaking out trying to throw it away from you, and you kind of be a little bit more in control of the weight. You always want to be controlling the weight. You don't want the weight to control you, and I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so I'm going to touch on this yet. So if you So first of all, for the people coming in at first, they have to get good at all the other basic stuff. They would do farmers and sandbag stuff first. And then you're into kind of your novice stage, actual competitive lifter maybe. I would say I would have no issue with them training stones maybe weekly, maybe 2 weeks in a row, week off, 2 weeks in a row, week off, because they need more time at them to acquire the skill, essentially. And maybe every other week wouldn't be enough from a skill perspective. But I would never have them maxing out.
Not doing anything.
No. If maybe they were at around 100 kilos for max, you might do some reps at 75 or 70 stone or whatever it might be. Might do a load of doubles, might do a load of triples, and just walk away from it without actually maxing them out. The other week, then you could go fairly heavy. You'd have a week off. I might repeat that over and over again until we get to a decent point. But once the athlete becomes skilled at it, and I there's a few of them here that just love doing stones. And they want to do stones all the time. No, you don't need to do stones. No. And keep them away from it and they, get their stiff leg or their RDLs up or their deadlift and their squat up. Next thing, go back to stones after a few months and they're as strong as ever. So it really comes back to training the other movements and making your body stronger as a whole. But given you've gotten your skill acquisition in. If you don't have the skill, you do have to practice it a bit in fairness. There's no other way around. You can't get better at something if you don't do it. In fairness,
it's balance.
It is balance. Yeah,
balance,
it is
technique and actually getting stronger.
Yeah, and I would say, like, if you are doing a lot of stone volume, just to learn the technique early on, you might have to pull back a little bit on some of the other stuff. You might have to pull back on your deadlift and squat volume a little bit to make up for how harsh it is on your body.
Because you can't start off the session lifting half the stones.
No,
it's usually at the end of your deadlift session.
It has
squat
to.
Session.
Fairness, because you can't go touching shit after.
No
matter how clean you are, most people still have a bit of tacky left on them, and you're so fried after stones as well. It's like, oh, I'm done now. Let's get out of here. Anything else you wanna?
I suppose this, you look at kind of natural stones, like kind of the same thing applies. That, like, every natural stone is different. So, like, training a natural stone repeatedly in the gym isn't really kind of going to get you anywhere. It'd be good to do just to kind of get used to holding something that's awkward.
Yeah.
I just know that I used to love just like picking up natural stones back home as a kid. But it's just like, when it comes to doing this kind of stuff, I know people who started off doing strongman and they're novice and inters, and they've gone and gotten like 2 or 3 big fucking rocks, and they're just lifting them in their gym, and it's just like, fair enough. Again, going back to like added stones, it's cool, but you're not really gaining anything, and you're risking a lot by doing that.
And how many people at that level are actually going to lift natural stone competition?
Barely. You barely see it at open level. Strongman and strongwoman, like barely.
There's a massive risk factor
hugely
to lifting natural stones, more so than atlas stones.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like,
because it's not balanced. You don't know where you're going.
You'd have to be insane in my eyes to have novices lifting natural stones. I just think it's way too dangerous.
Hugely.
Personally, anyway. So, like, that's like it's just like the stones. Like I said, what are you getting from doing it?
Yeah.
What are they getting from
much,
not much.
Ego.
Yeah. Cool social media video.
One thing just back to atlas stones, just to be aware of as well, I suppose, is the whole version of people using tape versus not using tape.
I was going to say that.
Like, preference wise, I know in the very beginning we used to tape because, like, protect the biceps and everything else. But I think now I'm more of the school of thought is teach them to lift them properly. Perhaps. But tape is also obviously an option. I just know that with tape, used to slip or it would tear away. If it was shit tape, it'd tear away, and then it completely put me off. Which is why I went down the pathway of no tape. Now you have to get used to the bruising and the soreness for a week or two.
Rough,
but it's like that. It's like a callus. It doesn't develop a callus, but you get desensitized. Kind of
like leathery kind of skin.
I think if you can hack stones on skin, it's definitely the best. Or stone tacky on skin.
It's rough, especially cleaning it off. It's fucking rough doing it. Like, but I just think as well, it's, even like with sleeves, like if that sleeve slips, then the stone slips, your bicep could fucking you could tear something like that. I feel like there's a lot less things to go wrong if you don't have sleeves or tape. The one thing I say, like, even if you look at what happened with Luke Saltman at the 2021 World Strongest Man, he's in 3rd place going into the last event, and came up to the last stone, and his tacky had more or less turned into fucking glue. Not glue, it was just running, and he couldn't get the last stone up, and he went from 3rd down to 7th. And I know myself, being like a very sweaty person, I know that can actually happen to me sometimes. So if it does, I find just make sure to rub your skin out, dry it off first before you put the tacky on, and using the right kinds of tacky, because like with service you got like grade 1 to grade 4. So if it's really, really hot conditions, I'd use grade 4, because even it was like with the qualifiers 2021, the stone at the end, it was like it was like 28 degrees outside.
Honey on the stone.
But I was probably the only one there who had grade 4 tacky, and I got the stone 4 or 5 times.
There were a few other people, because I brought a stone for a couple of days. In fairness.
So again, I think just like knowing as well what kind of tacky to have, like, colder weather, grade 2 probably would be better. But if you're going into a very hot place, or if you're somebody who's very kind of sweaty, grade 4 probably would be a better option.
And like on a really hot day like that, you don't need a lot of tacky. You just use a small bit in your hand.
Small bit. I think it's better off to have less tacky on a hot day. But one thing I will say, just from my own personal fucking heartbreak, when it comes like, especially just, you don't have to use that much tacky in the gym training wise, but I feel like when you're going up in competition, make sure you have a fucking like half the tub in the back of your hands, like if not the whole tub, because Cerberus Cup fucking 2021 goes tied going into the last event with Kevin, and it was seven reps on the stone, and I remember like the whole training cycle, like stone was just like, I was struggling with that stone, but the first rep I was like, this is the easiest it has felt in so long, like I was getting so excited, And then I think like when I went for the 5th rep, like all the tacky had come off my fucking arms. I had none left in the back of my hands. I couldn't fucking lift it anymore. Like, and then it cost me the competition. Like, so just any time now I'm doing stones, I've got like I just use the whole tub, like all of my hands and both, because it's just like, you know, fuck it, like it's you want to win it. Anyway. It's competition day, so just like I know, like just save yourself the heartbreak and just put on loads of fucking tacky in the back of your hands, because I still think about that.
Drives you, sure, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It fucking drives me mad.
And then I actually back to accessories for stones. We can actually touch on that. We have in our notes here. So like, I think this is kind of simple, really. Like, you all know where this is going to go. So for loading a stone, if you're struggling there, front squats are very good. Like we've seen them help people so much time and time again. And like we've used that down through the years a lot, and pause front squats as well. And works really well for most people. Then for picking up the stone to get into your lap, stiff leg deadlifts with a dead stop on the floor, really beneficial. Any kind of posterior chain movement, in fairness, just getting your deadlift up will help there too. But specifically, if you're looking for a specific movement, I think stiff leg deadlift with a dead stop could even do it to a slight deficit if you have mobility first. That's going to help loads. And then after that, like just loads of rows and stuff, and upper back strength. Help squeeze onto that stone a bit more.
One thing I see people who, like, especially when they're struggling with stones, is their fucking knees coming in. Because I feel like it's like when they get it to their lap, they kind of like point their knees inwards.
They want to close the gap.
Yeah. Which like you don't like.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. No. You want to be able to like sit deep enough, get your hands in, and then like I typically just keep my knees kind of pushed out, because you're in a much stronger position that way. You can use your abductors, you can use your quads, you can use everything. So it's just I see so many people where it's like their knees are like this, and then they're getting up, and next thing they're all wobbling like kind of like side to side and stuff like. So I feel like getting, again, I suppose I'll probably come back to the front squats, but Paul's front squats in particular, but just getting comfortable with like keeping your legs out, your knees out wide, and just kind of holding that position and then shooting up.
But the thing is with the knees in, right? And people, I always say this to people, is when you bring your knees together, you're not in a strong position.
No,
you wouldn't do a heavy squat with your knees caved in. You try and keep them out, or deadlift or anything, because in caved isn't strong. Out is stronger. That's a better base. So you want to be knees out at the bottom, so you can actually drive out of it with power. That's a really simple analogy, like, but I mean, it makes sense when you think about it.
You can even like if it's something that you're like say afraid of stones and it's kind of freaking you out. Again, kind of what I was saying earlier, just like whatever position you feel less comfortable in, just sit there and hold it and just get comfortable and like kind of be conscious of how your body should feel in those positions. And like I feel like having a good muscle mind connection for something like this is like very important, because a lot of people, again, they kind of get it and they start freaking out and they just want to get it away from them as quick as they can. And you're going to put yourself at risk, and possibly the person who's on the other side controlling the stone, you could be putting them at risk as well. Like, so
like what you could do there, so is just train lapping it. And just getting comfortable in the lap. Because I think when a lot of people lap stone, they're thinking about you getting over the bar. Whereas like if you need to get comfortable lapping and find a good position in the lap, well, just lap a few stones, just drop them then, and just practice a few laps, because there's no point going, trying to get over the bar if you can't get the beginning right. You got to get your pick right, you got to get your lap position right, and then you got to get your up and extension right.
Break it down. Like,
you can break it down. You can literally break the movement down like that. And like I've seen you train extensions before, where you like into your lap and then up and down into lap and down. So you can train every part of the movement in isolation, essentially. So if you are struggling with it, part of it, something you can do as well.
Break it all down.
Because like essentially breaking, like doing stone lapping only is essentially an accessory as well. It's a very specific accessory, but it is still an accessory movement for stone lifting.
I know we kind of said it earlier as well, like, but if you're kind of getting uncomfortable with stones, even just get a sandbag and just kind of break it down into the same, kind of lap it and kind of do your extensions and stuff, just to kind of give you a bit more confidence. Because a sandbag, I think, is a little bit harder to actually do that movement with. And it's a lot more dense, whereas like a stone is a little bit easier because it's a lot more balance and you can actually kind of get it up a bit better. So there's a lot of benefit from actually using the sandbag.
And that's a stone. You can do that in any gym, really.
Yeah, just don't use the fucking tacky on it.
Oh, absolutely not.
Something that's popped into my head there about stones, but I actually can't remember it. Yes. So for some people that maybe are having trouble with the extension, the topping it and the power through, something that could be beneficial, but to be honest, you have to be technically able at it already. I don't think it's worth going down the route of earning it. Is Olympic lift. So some snatch pulls and some like clean pulls and stuff like that, real explosive stuff, can help with the extension and being explosive off the lap with a stone. But for a lot of people, take the time to learn them properly might not be worthwhile.
No.
You know what I mean? I think, but if you have maybe a background in it, because I have someone at the moment who's kind of struggling in that area, but they have a background in CrossFit and some Olympic lifting, so I'm probably going to add that to their program. But for most people, and like most people we have training here with us, wouldn't bother, because it's just the time it's going to take to learn that. It's probably going to frustrate them so much as well that it's just not worth it. That I would just go back to the stone and just focus solely on that stone and trying to master that. But that's something else that people can do if they already maybe have a background in it, is adding that into your program. But again, you really want to have that background, I think, because the time it will take to learn it efficiently will be very, very difficult. I see people actually, I see strongmen sometimes throwing Olympic lifts in, and like they're, for explosiveness and stuff, and they look like shit doing it, to be honest with you. Like, they're just not doing it right.
So technical.
Yeah, you need to have a good coach that's well able to teach that on hand.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How are we there? Anything else? That stones, lads, stone lifting?
I think we have that.
Very well covered,
Oh, one more thing. Right, one more thing. No, but if you have 4 foot stone over yoke in competition coming up, train 2 inches higher.
Yeah. Totally.
Just a couple inches higher all the time, because what happens to people is they get used to training to a certain height, and they end up I see it a lot of social media in particular, like, is they just clip the bar every single time they're training over, right? And they're just training to that 4 foot. Well, you might turn up to competition and it might be slightly higher because the setup is slightly off, or where the holes actually are in the yoke are slightly different to where yours is. It's not exactly 4 foot, and that extra inch higher that it might lead you to just crash into it over and over again. How frustrating is that? Like, it's just not worth it. So just I like to have people as much as possible train
really high.
Like we've trained like some max height stuff before. Like,
I think the highest you had me on, I think it was like 5.5 foot. And then like it was insane. Like to put it over, like I was having to basically press, like almost press it. Like, but
I was standing on the other side of it, going, "Oh my god, this is going over my head."
But then when I went into competition, then like I cleared it by I think about half foot.
Definitely training stone to height. You could just pick a set weight and try and build the height up over time. That'll do loads for you. It'll absolutely do loads for you. But even just generally training a couple inches higher than the competition is going to be, if you have that one coming up, is going to be very beneficial to you. So yeah, that's something I'd forgotten about, but I think that stone's fairly well covered there now. In fairness, people are going to be sick of listening to us talk about stones.
Stones are great.
So the last thing we want to talk about was
so just wanted to have a little thing there about Jessica Rush. So I don't know how many people in Ireland probably know about Jessica. Jessica Rush is a masters strong woman, very well known in America. I competed against her in last year, 2022, and she won OSG World Strongest Woman back in 2019, I think it was. Anyway, Jessica, like she actually tore a bicep during OSG, and she'd had that repaired there a few weeks back. But 2 Sundays ago, she suffered massive stroke. And I think it really hit home because she's in around the same age as me, and it was, you kind of think about what we do. We push the limits every day in the strength sports that we do, and to think that this woman who is very strong, reasonably fit, I would say, and I've met her, had this fucking stroke, like. So that was 2 Sundays ago. Now she has, as far the update is that she has lost power still in her right arm and hand. She wasn't able to talk initially, but I think there's some speech coming back. As far as I know, I think she's still in ICU, but she is moving around. She's able to move. But there is a fundraiser being done over in America. Official Strongman has a post up. USS has Woody Wessels has a post up. I'm going to get you to post, I think, on the podcast, and we'll share as well the link. So what they're looking for, obviously, if people want to donate, they can. And I'm just putting out to the strongman community and strongwoman community in Ireland, and anyone that's listening in the UK as well, just to get it out there. Like, it's one of our own, and God forbid any one of us could be in that position. They're also looking for posts or videos. So if you do know Jessica, or if you have competed alongside her, just as to give her a pick up for people to actually for them to show to her. So that's it, and I'm wishing her a massive and speedy recovery, and hopefully her strength behind her strength, strongman training will push her forward, and I think her will as well, because we're all a bit strong-willed, I think, doing this. Her stubbornness will bring her back, and hopefully see her back one day competing. So just wanted to put that out there.
Lovely stuff. And yeah, we'll add the link into the description as well for the podcast on Spotify and YouTube. So I think that's it for today, lads. That's it for episode 10. Thank you for listening.
Thanks
if you
very
like
much.
Double digits, lads.
double digits, look at that.
If you have any suggestions, message any one of us, and we'll try and talk about whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're
always looking for topics. I mean, we tend to sit down before the podcast and look at what people have got onto us with messages, and we'll pick a few topics and try and talk about as much as we can. So send them our way. Anything you want us to talk about, please send it our way. If you like it, share it, let everyone know about it, lads.
Whatever that thing is.
Take it easy. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.